Father, any comments on those things, opening ceremonies?
Well, the Olympics are pagan. In their origins, they're pagan, okay? The very word Olympic, I mean, we're talking about Mount Olympus, right? The gods of the Greeks and the Romans and pagan mythology and all these so-called gods are superhuman sinners. They're like superheroes who are like soap opera characters, right? Always getting into trouble, the intrigues and so on. It's like watching a soap opera with a central casting sending over these quasi-divine figures to play the roles. Comic tragic figures, all of them. So the origin of the Olympics in itself, I mean, is embedded in paganism. They would start these games with devotions to their so-called gods and goddesses, okay? And the modern Olympics are trying to recreate that. If you look at the history of the Olympics, and I'm not an historian of the Olympics, but we'll just get kind of an overview of it. There had been various attempts. Once they were banned by the Christian emperor in, I think it was the year 394. It was a Theodosius who put an end to the Olympics because they were so pagan, so vile, and so offensive to Christ and to Christianity. They languished, and there were various attempts along the way in history, some in Britain, to kind of revive them and so on. But they were finally revived pretty much, well, the French Revolution. The French revolutionaries tried to revive the Olympics because they tried to, let's say, reestablish universal paganism. That's what they were really after, the French revolutionaries, And that didn't take off as much as they'd hoped, obviously. But anyway, it's another story altogether about them. But finally, it was a Frenchman who actually established the International Olympic Committee in the late 1800s. There had been various organizations before that, but he, by establishing the International Olympic Committee, actually gave it legs, as it were. And so it grew and grew and grew. This was a man, he wasn't a bad fellow. In fact, he seemed to have been raised in a very Catholic family and had the idea that sport or athleticism is a very important part of the raising of a child. And he thought that a sound mind and a sound body applied. He wasn't glorifying the body at the expense of the soul, necessarily. That's how it has become, unfortunately. Very much paganized once again. And the International Olympic Committee, the representation on that, no doubt, has a lot to do with it. Why would, for example, the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris be subjected to an artist, author, and what else, a director named Thomas Jolly. It might be Joly, but his name is spelled Thomas Jolly. And he's a homosexual, and a very well-known homosexual in the arts. And they turn the Olympic program over to him. He designs it, he directs it. This is what he did. He gives us this mockery of the Last Supper, of drag queens, okay? This tableau performing the Last Supper. But it's not just that. That's bad enough, okay? It's a direct insult. Again, they throw all this anti-Christian paganism at us. A green Dionysius figure, practically unclad entirely, making lewd references to himself. I mean, this is actually all in conjunction with these opening ceremonies that are all of a piece, pretty much. Then they have some figure of Marie Antoinette holding her head, singing some song that, again, basically has the sense of, well, that's the way it goes, And it's sort of almost like, well, we're celebrating the death of all that stood for, the old realm, and now we're in the new. And so they have the pale horse riding out toward the people. It's interesting how much of this, too, goes with apocalyptic imagery, as though the people who are putting this on are, in a sense, shoving the Bible in our faces. But it indicates that they see the connection between what's in the Bible, in the apocalypse, and what they're doing. They make a direct connection between the fourth horseman, the rider on the pale horse, and his name is Death, okay? They associate this with what they're doing, almost as though this is a mascot for the games, of this year. And the fourth rider, or on the pale horse, in the sixth chapter of the book of the Apocalypse, is actually the rider who brings death by the means of the previous three riders: conquest, war, and famine, and so on. and disease. He brings all of these to the earth. This rider on the pale horse, the fourth rider. The fact that they kind of unleashed this on everyone, on the world, is a statement. There's no doubt about it. They're stating something that goes far beyond mere entertainment. They're making a statement as far as the present and the future. People should take seriously that this is an expression and a warning. We should take seriously the warnings from heaven, but these are warnings that are being actually thrust in our faces here. A complete, abject, satanic mockery of all that we love, all that we believe, and that is on the table now. It's perfectly fine with them. Now, they've had to retreat somewhat because there was a backlash, and I commend, there were thousands and thousands of French who came out into the streets, and they were singing the Ave Maria. They were making reparation to God for this blasphemy. God bless them for that. There's still faith. There's still faith in these people. And I hope that they now are motivated by not only their faith, but the love for their faith and for their Lord to take a stand now and not to simply let this pass and go home and forget all about it again. It can't be that way. Even the El Asher Mosque in Egypt expressed outrage that this was done. There was only one world recognized political figure, one religious figure, one world religious figure who did not express any outrage at it, and that is Francis. He had cardinals who were expressing a favorable attitude toward this because they thought that the purpose as the designers of this opening ceremony was to stress inclusion. Well, this is called the gayest Olympics ever because it is basically built around the theme of homosexuality. And Tom, I mean, if people need a gauge to determine how much influence and power the homosexuals have taken over the world, they can look at that in the Olympic Games right now in this opening ceremony and see this is the power that they wield right now. And they're flaunting it. The entire world is in the grip of these people right now. Homosexuality and homosexuals. It manifests itself day after day after day in the halls of government, in our libraries, our schools, but now in the Olympic Games too. It was a very evil thing, and they may pull on their horns for a brief while. They had to cancel one ceremony. Heaven only knows what that was like. But they're not done yet. We still have to remember, though, that the Olympics are essentially pagan program. Catholics should not be supporting these things.